Hi everyone, my name is Sharon Koifman, and I'm obsessed with remote management. I started being obsessed with remote management with my first company. I ran a web hosting and outsourcing and web design company where we had about 30 employees in India among 2 offices. And we got a chance to learn so much about hiring and managing international people that work from distance. I became even more obsessed with remote management when I started Distant Job, which is a very unique recruitment agency specialized in hiring people all over the world, but they actually work directly for the companies. So our clients become the bosses, and we just help them through the process and make sure that they find the most awesome people possible. Now, the amazing thing about Distant Job is that we get to all work remotely. We practice what we preach. We're about 22 people across the world, and everyone simply gets to work from home, and barely any one of them actually works in the same country. So it becomes sort of a research lab for management process for remote people. So to introduce you a little bit to the concept of remote management, I prepared a little speech just talking about some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they actually choose to go remote. This is based on a lot of my experience, a lot of our research, and sometimes also I involved some outside research just to prove that I don't talk out of my bum. So without ado, let's talk about the first mistake that people usually make. I brought a drum roll machine just to make it a little more exciting. I'm very excited about it. It's the first time I'm using it. Nice. This makes things a lot more fun, for sure. So the first mistake is treating remote workers like contractors or outsourced workers. I know it sounds kind of funny because the majority of remote employees these days are contractors and they work within an outsourced environment. But the key here is really not to treat them like one. Let me start by telling you a little bit of a story. So I have a friend named Rob. Rob calls me one of the days, and it was about a year ago, and he calls me very excited and says, "Sharon, I am ready." I'm like, okay, I'm excited for you. What are we ready for? He says, "I am ready for your outsourcing." Rob, I don't run an outsourcing company. It's like, yeah, you know what I mean, like outsourced employees. I'm like, yeah, no, I run a recruitment agency, but saying that, I knew exactly what he meant. I didn't want to be too difficult with him, so I said, okay, no problem. I tend not to like to do business with my friends for that specific reason, but I gave him a little pro bono experience. I found him the right person, and then I spent a long time consulting him and helping them to make sure that he is on his way to manage this remote person really well. And then he disappeared. Oh my God. I can't believe it just disappeared, but thank God 2 months later we went for a drink and he didn't keep me waiting for too long, and he said that, "Sharon, I love the remote experience. I love working with my remote employee." And I said, "Yay, good. Okay, but Rob, you understand, I write blogs about this, I do research, you got to give me some more input. Just tell me, what is the best advice that I gave you that made it a more successful experience?" And I was a little surprised because I was expecting him to talk about some of the technique that I suggested, that maybe the tools that he should be using. But what he responded really did surprise me. He said that the best advice that I offered him is start the process by stop using terms such as contractors, freelanced, outsourcing, simply because if you have a real employee, you start investing in him. You start training him. You start treating him as part of the company. So simply just words made a difference in the way that he approached managing those remote people. In reality, outsourcing, at least for me, means a company that takes on a project, focuses on multiple projects at a time. They don't necessarily interested to integrate as part of a company, and even if they do, they have multiple clients, so it's very hard to integrate multiple companies. So you're not getting the experience of somebody that is truly invested and wants to be involved with your operation. It's very important to understand that people function as a cluster. They like to integrate as part of a cluster. We are a tribal species, right? And when we are in a tribe, we usually like to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We accomplish goals as a team. From my experience, anybody who makes a choice to function, and I apologize for any contractors here, but when I worked with contractors or people that really wanted to keep the contractor, the freelance mentality, chances are that their headspace was somewhere else. That means that anybody who, there are some, the financial benefits and other benefits of working contractors, so maybe it is because of that they choose to be contractors, but if there's no benefits and they still maintain, I'm a contractor, I'm a freelancer, I'm not part of your company, that means that they possibly are thinking about starting their own company, they're possibly having projects on the side, or possibly just like to work alone and not necessarily the best team players. So, and the metaphor that I used before with the tribal, anybody that does not want to be part of your tribe, chances are that he wants to start his own tribe. So what does it mean not treating a person as a contractor or a freelancer? Now, as I mentioned before, word matters. So please, when you start calling people employees and workers, it's far more powerful than calling them contractors, outsourced, employees, freelancers. It automatically changes the relationship between the boss and the person that works for. Now, you want to try to replicate your office experience as much as possible, preferably with tech. So the way you interview, the way you evaluate, the way you train, the way you inspire truly needs to be replicated. Also, the way you provide benefits. I know this is kind of funny sometimes for remote employees. I actually have a potential client that hopefully in a few weeks is not going to be potential. Oh, please, just be a client. But he really understood the model of remote. I did not need to explain anything about remote and how to work with remote people. He just got it. And all he wanted me is to deliver him the best people internationally, and it was fairly easy until we got a little bit into the nitty-gritty details, where I told him that when I propose his job to the candidates, I'm trying to provide 10 days of national holidays and 2 weeks of vacation. And he immediately said, whoa, hold on for a second. When I work with remote people, I treat them like contractors. That means I pay them a little bit more, and I let them make the decision how much vacation they want, and whenever they want it. He's being very flexible about it. But what he doesn't understand, and that took like a 20-minute discussion to explain him that when you are not offering the same similar benefit as you would for your remote employees, you are creating cliques. You're separating people. You're not getting this individual to feel like they're part of the company. You're making them feel like contractors. And this is a major psychological effect on people that are working for a team. But again, you want people that are working by your processes. You want people functioning by your culture. Of course, one of the bigger challenge that you have with remote people is getting them involved as part of the social experience. This is really the artist aspect, but as you can see here, we have birthday parties on webcams. We sit there, everybody has a drink. We work with different time zones, right? Adam is that ugly clown that's in the corner there, that I blame him, right? and really, and if it's morning time, people have coffees. If it's evening, people have the wines. We don't push alcohol, so you can drink whatever you want, but we have a party. We get to know people very well. If you're a company with a bigger budget, please don't be shy. Invite people in. Make sure that they feel part of the experience. That face-to-face, social, get to know people is so powerful. And you want to replicate as much as you can, even if it is a little more challenging when you deal with remote, especially international people. So now, let's talk about the second mistake that is out that people make with remote management. I apologize. I have to do this again because I really like this. Nice. All right. Just. Sorry, I'm embarrassing Adam here, but I just bought this because I had to do this. Right? This is part of the fun for me. And the second mistake is not paying attention to the worker's mental health. This is it's a little extension of the first mistake. In the first mistake, I was talking about how we're going to replicate the office model. Are we trying to mimic what is done in your office and doing approximately the same thing? Here, we're asking for you to do a little bit better. And let me offer to start off with some statistics, a little bit of research. In a study of 1,100 employees done by Harvard Review, research shows that remote workers feel shunned and left out. 52% of them feels that colleagues don't treat them equally. If we look at the state of remote work, their research has shown that the biggest struggle with working remotely is loneliness. This is 21% among collaboration, distraction at home, staying motivated. Loneliness is the biggest issue. So that's why we need to deal with that, because otherwise, the best thing that could happen, you might lose people working for you. The worst thing that could happen, you might have an employee that is working for you and producing nothing. So the biggest question, I don't want to discourage you from hiring remote employees because it is a little bit scary, but it is quite easy to deal with. The trick is the manager needs to have a conversation. He needs to talk about sports. He needs to talk about kids. He needs to talk about hobbies and passion. I actually sometimes evaluate my managers based on how well do they know the kids of the people that work under them. Because this is key to actually notice when something is going wrong. You need to use webcams as much as possible. I know it might be a little scary for some people. Maybe I'm stating the obvious, but you need to use those webcams and you need to use the best tools out there, which are incredibly affordable. If you have people working under you, make sure that they have the highest quality internet. Make sure that they have the best headphones. On a side note, one of the most complaint thing that I heard from people that I try to sell the distant job service to, they kind of tell me that, I can't really explain why the remote experience doesn't work for me, but something doesn't feel right when I deal with somebody distant. I actually call this the watch-and-me-call-it effect. That's right, watch-and-me-call-it, right? Simply because there is something about dealing with somebody on webcam that does not necessarily feel like the person is in the office. Now, I did a little research with my team and tried to figure out, maybe we can pinpoint what is this watch-and-me-call-it thing is. And we very quickly discovered that watch-and-me-call-it comes to 2 points: latency and scratchy noise in the background. The audio is so important, and the investment for a good headset these days, you can get a Jabra headset for literally $80, and those things that cancel the noise, the microphones are incredible, and it truly feels like you're talking to a person in front of you. When it comes to the internet, you absolutely need to make sure that you buy usually at $10 or $20 extra, 2 notches higher than what you would usually use for your internet, which you're properly comfortable with. Get it higher, get it better. It's a small investment, but the conversation experience is going to be far more superior, and you will enjoy having this type of conversation. Now, the last point, which I usually leave the most challenging points, is that you need to make sure that your workers are always part of the conversation. Another big complaint that I have with remote employees, they say that they always feel a little neglected. They always feel like they're not part of the clique. As a manager, you need to make sure that every conversation, business or social, involves the remote people. You cannot create cliques if that means that you need to put webcams all over your office. We don't want to start doing Big Brother. We don't want to get to that place. But creating that technology to be accessible is key here. So just want to be very clear about one thing. This is not just for me to give you a gold star for being a Mr. Nice manager. All the advice that I give you till now are really there to make sure that, to think about the bottom line. When you are not thinking about the emotions, when you're not thinking about replicating the experience, you are contributing to a lack of productivity. Let's get to the last point. Okay, anybody minds? I'm just going to do this one last time, right? Because I just love this. I'm sorry. Yes. All right. And the last mistake that people make is replicating the office too much. Oh my God, I just threw you a curveball, right? Until now I told you, try to replicate the office as much as possible. Try to be as close as possible to what you have in the office. But once you get fairly advanced to that, I need you to take a step back and pay attention if there's things that you don't want to replicate. 5 minutes, I'm doing good. So I'm going to talk a little bit about myself because I enjoy talking about myself because I like the sound of my own voice, right? But as a boss, I think that I've quite a few strong points. I think that I'm a fairly creative person. I'm incredibly motivating. I know how to do a few sales here and there, but where I truly am not strong is in structural management. And when I saw my first company, the Empire House that I mentioned before, I made myself a goal to make sure that I'm going to be really, really good. And that meant that I wanted to make sure that I go to every employee in the company and check on them, review them, motivate them, fix it, and just keep on going, etc., till I take care of everybody. Now, the positive thing that happened from that is that I built trust. I built enough trust with my employees that they felt comfortable busting my chops, which was quite not always such a positive experience because I remember exactly when I got my VP to be comfortable to tell me that I'm doing something wrong when I asked him about how does he like my management process, and he answered that I am annoying. And what I realized, and many companies have that issue, that the managers distract their people. Now, you guys tell me, how many of you work in an office environment right now? Okay, tell me if this resonates with you. So you wake up in the morning, you have a nice sleep, you wake up, you go to the office, you start checking your emails, then you go and you check your Facebook. You see a very interesting article. About 45 minutes pass by. You go, you're ready. Okay, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to do a little code. Okay. Boom, 5 minutes later, your buddy contacts you and says, hey, what do you think about this Avengers Endgame? Wasn't that an amazing movie? Amazing? It was total crap. What are you talking about? 15 minutes later, you're spending talking to him, then you come back to your computer, you go on Facebook, you decide, I need to post about this wonderful article. You check Twitter, if they talk about it, and then you're ready. Okay. All right, okay. I'm ready to go. 5 minutes later, your manager comes in and says, dude, I need to get your input. Please, let's set up a meeting. Let's talk about it. You sit on a meeting, you realize that the manager claims that he wants to hear your input. He really doesn't care because he likes the sound of his own voice. I resonate with it sometimes. And an hour away goes by, and again, all right, you're coming in, you're ready. Oh, okay, all right. Now I'm ready for typing. It's like, oh my God, 10 minutes later, you start seeing everybody going for lunchtime. It's ribs lunchtime. You can't miss that unless you're kosher, and then that's not acceptable. So you go, you're trying to get it, and the day just go by, and you get 2 to 3 hours of productivity. Did it resonate with anybody? If it did not resonate with you, I will tell you this. First of all, maybe your operation is awesome and distractive-free. The second option is that you're potentially delusional, right? The third option is maybe you're a remote worker. And the third option, maybe you're one of those annoying managers. Because here are some of the facts. In an 8-hour day, the average worker is only productive 2 hours and 53 minutes. It takes 25 minutes to regain focus on task after distraction. This is the reality. Oh boy, need to rush here a little bit. A survey showed that the average American employee spends more than 9 hours each week preparing for or sitting through meetings. 60% also consider meetings to be distraction. Now the last point, I just got to mention that if 3 years ago I would give the speech, I would tell you that Slack is the ultimate way. I don't know how many of you have used Slack here. Does anybody use Slack? Right? It's the ultimate way. I'm 2 minutes away from done. I would preach that Slack is the ultimate way to replicate the office experience. But more and more I've noticed that the shoulder nudging is the office experience replicated on remote. Right? And if you look in Quora, when you mention the word distraction in an office, Slack is one of the words that come out the most. And I used to think that this is my way to get closer to my people until they told me that I was annoying. So please, guys, what not to replicate? Real-time interaction is no good. Random daily meetings is not good. Value those meetings. They have substance to them. You're wasting people's time. It better be valuable. Micromanaging and distracting. Try to focus on getting your people working. Of course, good practices focus on result-based models. The less you distract, the more you see in a project management tool how they work. Minimize and book meeting in advance. Self-explanatory, as I was saying. And implement and empower management process. Implement an empowering management process. Some people like to claim that there's one specific management process. We don't feel that one tool fits all. We like to use Scrum, a very light version where we set up the planning in the beginning, where we do retrospective in the end, and then we get daily stand-ups on our project management system, which is Basecamp, in order not to distract the people too much. So the takeaways. Treat your remote people as if they are local. Make sure that they all get the same benefits. Get to know your people on a personal level. Use your webcam all the time. And use the benefits of remote working to achieve higher production. You have remote people that finally don't need to be distracted. Don't add distraction to their life. And with that, finishing by saying, being a good remote manager just makes you a really great manager. Thank you for listening.